Welcome back, students. This one is a new session of grammar learning in the new topic, reported speech. We are aware, we have been taught in our school days how to change from direct to indirect speech. So this is quite common, without knowing the way of doing it, without knowing the elements and the principles and the rules of it, we have just done it very neatly and we have scored good marks. But here, when we are talking about reporting something, it is almost like, it is not changing from a direct one. It is not a sentence-wise one, but you will have to write it in such a way that as if you are reporting it to a fourth person. See, there is a conversation going on between person 1 and 2. Okay, person 1 and person 2. These two, 1 and 2, are in conversation with each other. You are person 3, you hear that conversation, and then after you hear it, you go to person 4 and then tell whatever has happened between the two. Okay, what were their dialogues? That way you will be talking about, not, you don't just abruptly say, cut and say, see, I wanted to do this. He said, I wanted to do. So that will be more and more confusing. So what you have to practice here is to write down as if you are telling it as if the person has directly told to him. So that itself is a little tough job here of writing the reported conversation. So this one has around 8 to 9 elements. I have just marked only 6 of them so that I can explain to you each one of them, and then we can learn stepwise. So these are the first few things. There are still more points, as I told you. I need some space to write few examples. So I haven't put everything on the board. The first 4 or 5 of them we'll be discussing now. See, whenever you have a dialogue, first thing that you have to do is you have to remove all the punctuations that are given in the dialogue. For example, I'll have one sentence saying, the teacher said, okay, I will, or here you can change as I'll teach you grammar today. I'll teach you grammar today. So this is her question. Okay. So this is the sentence that the teacher says. Now when you are putting it in the reported speech, first thing that you have to remember is, this is, you'll have to take off all these punctuation marks, that is the quotations, and if there is a comma or anything, you'll have to just take it off. And the short form cannot be used. This I'll cannot be used like that itself in the short form. So it has to get necessary changes and alterations. Taking this question, the first one is done. We'll remove it, but when we start writing, we'll remove it and write it off. Next, change all kinds of sentences into an assertive sentence. So that means to say, if I ask you a question, then the question has to be put in the form of a sentence only. Let me write another example here, and then both the examples I'll be discussing. Okay, Rahul asked his mother, or I'll have to just write down for the sake of changing it, I'll say Rahul said to his mother, will you help me in my project? Will you help me in my project? Okay. So this is one question wherein I have a question mark also. Rahul, he is saying something to his mother. In this case also, since this is a question, when I change it, I'll have to put it in the form of a assertive sentence. It has to be a normal sentence which tells something. So we'll make necessary changes according to this. This kind of sentence, we'll have an example and then start writing. The third one is, whenever we have the word said, you'll have to change as the word told. And whenever we use said in a question, it has to be changed into asked, requested, inquired or commented, whatever it is, depending on the situation. So these kinds of words, they are called as reporting words. These are called as reporting words. So we have to use appropriate reporting words. Okay, this is very essential. So here the teacher is saying something. So the reporting word will be told. The teacher told. That will be sufficient. And Rahul is asking his mother, but when it is given in the sentence, in the question, it is still said only. So here you will have to change it into asked, because Rahul is asking, or you can also write Rahul requested. Okay, anything that will be fine. So can we start with the second question? I'll be just writing here, Rahul requested his mother. I'll just stop at it so that I can just tell you the later on things, and then we will be continuing. Okay, Rahul requested his mother, something that will be finishing it up later. Here, this one, the teacher told. Okay. Next, we have a linking word. The linking word is that. We need to use this that whenever it is a sentence only, not when it is a question. Okay. So, for example, when your teacher says, what is the date today? Okay. What is the date? What is today's date? So, when you have to put it in reported speech, you will say, the teacher asked what was that day's date. Okay, you will not say the teacher asked that, because when I know that will already be there. So you just don't write that word, that linking word when you are writing a question. So this one also you will have to use the linking word that only for sentences only. Okay, not for questions, for sentences only. Next, we have to change the corresponding verbs, wherever we have verbs, all those verbs, they have to be put into the corresponding past tense. For example, when I have a simple present tense here, I need to write it in a simple past tense. So, the corresponding past tense, it has to change. Present continuous will change to past continuous tense. And similarly, the present perfect tense, it will change into past perfect tense. So, this kind of changes in the verbs is essential. Here, the verb is teach, but the word teach, the verb here, it depends on the auxiliary verb that will, which is hidden. Okay, so it is, I will teach you. The verb teach, it depends on will. So that is talking about the future tense. So you will have to keep that in mind and then put that verb into past tense, corresponding past tense. The teacher told that. We don't know the gender of the teacher, so it could be he or she, anything. So we will write it as she itself. The teacher told that. The teacher told that. The teacher told that she. Now this one, among these two, tell me which one has to be changed into past tense. Is it will or teach? It is will. So we have to teach this, we have to change this will into past tense. That she would. Okay, once I have made a change in the corresponding auxiliary verb, I don't have to change it in the actual main verb. So that will be nuisance. That's called redundancy. You will have to avoid such mistakes. So she would, and then now I have changed it, changed will into past tense. So teach has to be retained in the same fashion. She would teach. Okay. So that is how it changes. The teacher told that she would teach. I have stopped till here. Next, I will have to talk about the pronouns. Okay, the pronouns also take a different form, and that is what has to be discussed. But before that, let me continue with this question. Take it to one step further and then leave it. The Rahul requested his mother, and then there is a question with a different form of question word. So I'll just tell you how to change that. So because that is a different question in a different manner, we'll stop, we'll retain this one here itself, continue with this one and complete it off. Now coming to this, she would teach, then you has to be changed. When I have written here that the pronouns have to be changed to third person. The pronouns, they change from first and second person to third person. We've already learned, we know that there are three types of persons, the first, second and the third person, wherein I always stands for first person, you and we stand for second person. So all these pronouns that are in I and you, no, I, you and we, that is in first and second person, they'll all change into third person categories. So this one, the third person category means it could be he or she or they. Okay, the person, third person category pronouns are these. So from the first and the second person, these two will change into the first and the second person pronouns. They'll always change into the third person category. Now talking about this one, the teacher said that I has to become pronoun. So this pronoun I, we're talking about teacher. I told you we don't know the gender of the teacher. We'll just consider it as a feminine gender only, and then imagine that it is a lady teacher who's teaching. So the pronoun has been changed into she. She would teach, and the next there's another pronoun you. I will teach you. You here refers to the students. So the teacher told that she would teach, you goes to us. Okay, she would teach us grammar today. So the word today has to change. Now I have written the next 2 points after the sixth one, the next 2 points that has to be taken care of when we are changing from direct to reported speech. So whenever we have, I'll just finish off with the 8th one first. There are a few words that change completely. They take a new form. Okay, and in that we have today becomes that day, now changes to then, tomorrow becomes the next day. For example, I say, whose class do you have tomorrow? Okay, so that would be changing as the teacher asks, whose class would we have the next day? So instead of tomorrow, you'll be writing the next day. If I say tonight, that means it would be that night. No, Rakesh said, tonight it's going to rain heavily tonight. Rakesh predicted that it would rain heavily that night. Okay, that is, you will change it into tonight into that night, this way. So do or does. Whenever you have do or does, it changes into corresponding past tense. So it becomes did. And there is another word called ago. Then you say before, 10 years ago. So before 10 years or 10 years before, all these things had happened. So these becomes those. I've just written a few of them. Students, if you feel you need to learn more about these words, you feel confused, see on page number 26 and 27 of your grammar workbook, 26 and 27 of your grammar workbook, there is a list of words that will help you to remember which word has been changed into which word. Okay, that list will help you to understand how to change it also. There are other words, simple words also that have been changed. So this one, keeping it in mind, when I change today to that day, now I know that I'll have to change it in this manner. So this question for me, it will be complete. So here I have to write today. So instead of today, I'll be writing that day. So this completes one question of mine. The teacher told that she would teach us grammar that day. Okay. If I say the teacher said to the students, I'll teach you grammar. then you will have to change it in a different version. The teacher told her students that she would teach them grammar that day, because I am writing it in the second person here, you, and I am reporting it the same way. So I write it as us grammar. So it will be teaching us grammar that day. Moving on to this question. Okay, Rahul said to his mother, will you help me in my project? Rahul requested his mother. We have left it like that itself. Coming to the 7th point, learning about this one, and then I think this question will be complete now. 7th point says, whenever you have a question that begins with an auxiliary verb, you remember there are certain auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs are helping verbs, and in the helping verbs we have two different categories. We have the primary auxiliary and we have the modal auxiliary. Any of the words that begin with the primary auxiliary or the modal auxiliary, that question has to have if or whether in it. Okay, when you are changing, you will add these two words. They are the linking words, and that will be if or whether. For your sake, let me make a very small and a quick note of the auxiliary verbs. The auxiliary verbs are is, was, are, were, am, do, does, did, has, have, had. Then I'll move on to the modal verbs: can, could, shall, should. Then I have shall, should, will, would, may, might, and must. Let me stop at this, okay? Must we learn grammar so tough, so hardly? Must we learn grammar essentially? So these are questions that have been categorized under auxiliary verbs. So these auxiliary verbs, when we do question forms, you have understood, when we run the question forms, we will understand that the question forms are of two categories, and these questions are the words which, the questions which begin with auxiliary verbs, they have yes or no as their answer. So whenever anybody asks you this question, you will have to first say yes or no, and then you have to give an explanation. For example, is today Monday? Then you will say no, today is not Monday, or today is Sunday, whatever it is. So first reply the first question over there, first part of it, that is or any other auxiliary verb, and then you will have to write down the correct answer. This one, when I say, whenever we have questions beginning with these, I'll have to use the linking word if or whether. I've written a slash here. It does not mean you'll have to use both. You should not be using both of them. So it should be either if or it should be whether. Whether. Okay. So let me continue with this one. Rahul said to his mother, there is this auxiliary word and the sentence beginning with auxiliary word, that is will. Now how do I change this? Requested his mother. You can definitely write if or whether. Anything that you use, it will be giving you marks. You don't have to worry whether marks will be given to you if you don't write whether. So there are students who still get confused with the spelling of whether. They always end up writing W-E-A-T-H-E-R. Okay, so in that case, if you feel you don't know the spelling, you please play safe and then finish it off, finish writing if only. If you feel you are confident enough of this spelling, you can use whether. Otherwise, if you think you are confused with the other whether, so it's better you write off if. There will be no loss at all. Rahul requested his mother if. Now you, who is this you referring to? You refers to Rahul's mother. So Rahul's mother, instead of you, I'll have to put the corresponding third person verb that is she. If she. Now I have to change will into past tense. So how do I change will to past tense? Will become would. If she would, then because I have changed the auxiliary verb, I don't have to change the tense in the main verb. I cannot be doing it. As I have told you, it sounds very awkward if I change both the helping verb and the main verb. So I'll have to just write the main verb as it is. So if she would help, and then now continuing with me. Who is this me referring to? Who does this me refer to? It refers to Rahul. So the corresponding pronoun for him is him. Help him in, again my refers to who? My refers to Rahul. So instead of my, corresponding third person for my, the corresponding third person would be his. So in his project. Should I keep a question mark? Because it is a question. Shall I put a question mark over there? No, I shouldn't be doing, because the first point that we had written, it tells us very clearly that we have to change all types of questions into sentences only, assertive sentences only. So, requested his mother if she would help him in his project, and this there should be a full stop. So, nowhere I have been using any kind of exclamation mark or a punctuation mark, and even the small question mark that was there, even that is gone off, and it is now a plain, simple, assertive sentence. So this one tells us how to change it. So we'll have more examples and write down more examples and learn how to change the direct speech into reported speech later on. No? But one thing, you will not have single sentences like this in your examination. That will be a paragraph. We'll be working it out on that also now.